Writing with other people I enjoy, you know, but we always end where I want it to end if it's on my record. There's always peace and love, there's always a break in the clouds, there's always light coming in. And, you know, I've been like that for many years. It's not new, but the work's a treat on country.
Well, thank you so much for doing this for American Songwriter. It is a true honor to have you on to talk about your new album, Look Up. It'll be out January 10th, and it's actually a country album. And you've had quite a history of doing country music throughout your career, both as a solo artist and the Beatles. So this is nothing new, really.
No, are we saying it's new?
But what made you decide to return to this genre now?
Well, like, life is good to me. And things happen, and I've made a few right turns that have got me somewhere. And through the pandemic, I was doing EPs, like pop rock. Linda Perry, songwriter. I had a song from her like 3 years ago, and then she said, "Ringo, let me do an EP on you." Okay. And so she did that, but then I'm making another EP, pop rock, and I come to this hotel where Olivia Harrison, George's wife, is reading a book she wrote, Poems for George. And there's about 60 of us standing outside here. And one of them was T-Bone, who I'd met many times from the middle 70s on. And so we know we're just being casual and cordial, say, "Oh yeah, hi man, yeah, hey man, hey man," and "Oh hey, how you doing?" "Good." "And what's happening?" We're just chatting with him. I thought, well, I'm making an EP. If you have a track, you know, if you have a song and you want to put some meat on it, which is other instruments, you know, send it to me. He said, "Okay, let me think about that." So he went away. I was busy with other players. And he sent me a track. And it was like mad, because he sent me this beautiful country song. And the music on it was great, and the sentiment was great. But I never thought about a country song coming from T-Bone Burnett. I thought he must have read my mind, you know, pop rock. And, but what can I do now? I can make a country EP. And I said, okay, and I got some other writers to write songs. I wrote one, the thankful one I wrote for the EP, but we put it on this album. And, you know, it was like easy, really. And so then I went through a bit of, you know, we were talking about the one track he sent me, and then he was coming over, and I thought, I'm going to ask him to do an EP. Would he do an EP? So he came over, and we're chatting about this, and I said, I didn't even get to that. I said, well, how many songs do you think you've got? He goes, 9. So I thought, 9? That's close to an album. Let's make a CD. And so I played drums on those 9. I sang those 9, sent them back to him. That's how it started. Just by coming here to hear someone else tell poetry, you know, for a great friend of mine. And there was a lot of people I knew, and it turned into, now I'm sitting with you. You know, I can't plan anything.
Well, I mean, you mentioned a moment ago, and I want to make sure to highlight it, the track Thankful. That is a special one on this. It closes this album. You co-wrote it with Bruce Sugar.
Sure, he's the engineer with me, he's the producer with other people.
Can you tell us, because this is for American Songwriting, I'm especially curious about how you went about writing that particular
Well, he'd have some sort of like, doo-down, ding, ding, dong, dong, dong. It was better than that. And, you know, I'd shout something, and I'd write lines down, and while I'm doing other things. And anyway, then we'd put it together, and that's how it worked. And, you know, on a lot of the EPs I did has a lot of writers on it with me. We share the right. And whoever had the opening line, it was great. So you'd come and say, oh, I've got this line, you know, love, love me do. Oh, yeah. And I'd have a line. And the one fun thing about it with Richard Marx, if we took longer than 25 minutes to write the song, we'd be disappointed in ourselves. Because some songs can take, a long time. And the craziest writing song, Back Off Boogaloo, Mark Boland had been over, we'd had dinner, he's always, I'll back off, I'll boogaloo. And anyway, I go to bed, I'm just in that queer zone before you go out. And I hear, back off boogaloo, I said, back off boogaloo, come on, back off. So I had the melody, so I jumped up and ran downstairs, and not one tape recorder was working, of course, and I'm trying to get batteries out of the kids' toys to put it into this. And, but that's how it started. But while I was like trying to get it on the tape, I was turning into Mac the Knife. No, not Mac the Knife. Do, 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 back on, boom. I had to like try and keep it. And I've lost so many songs because I couldn't hold on to it. It came in and went out. But a lot of people, do this. They wake up and they've got an idea that something happened in the dream. But that was absolutely in the dream. Wow. That I started it. So it comes from anywhere. And, writing with other people I enjoy, But we always end where I want it to end if it's on my record. There's always peace and love. There's always a break in the clouds. There's always light coming in. And, I've been like that for many years. It's not new, but it works a treat on country. It really does. I keep saying this. I mean, it's just one of those crazy thoughts that country music is the wife's left, the dog's dead, and you don't have enough money for the jukebox. But they write about other things too.
What's interesting is that one of the first songs that you sang on for the Beatles was "Act Naturally," the Buck Owens song, and so you really established right off the bat that you truly understand about country music and appreciate it.
Well, I love country music, but also before that was Carl Perkins, Matchbox, and I covered a couple of other songs. But Buck, I heard that track, and I have to do this track. Mm-hmm. And then we did it together.
Yes,
that's right. We just, it like went on crazy, but he was great. And that, they say, well, where does it come from? I don't know where it comes from. Mm-hmm. I had this idea to, cover his track. Nobody else knew it. Country people knew it. And Listen for Your Footsteps, I was just at home in England because it was written in the 60s. But, they just happened. I was sitting there and I listened for your footsteps coming down the drive. So they come from anywhere, it's a thought comes in and you try and turn it into a song.
And then you wrote Octopuss Garden, which is such an iconic song. And I know you've told that story 1,000 times, but I think there's going to be people watching this who are just starting off as songwriters who haven't heard that story yet.
This is for all the new songwriters. You go on holiday to Sardinia, and a friend of yours, Peter Sellers, has a yacht, and he lends you this yacht. And we go out mooring. We had 2 kids then, Zach and Jason, and I had a guitar with me. Also had a couple of spliffs, we used to call them, to get that. Wow, it's great here. So we ordered fish and chips for lunch. Very Liverpool lunch, and they gave us octopus and chips. So, we don't eat octopus, So anyway, the day went on. I ended up having a really good time, and the captain of the boat came and was talking to me. He said, "Oh, first of all, I see you don't like octopus." And he said, "Do you know octopus? Where they live, in their cave or in their spot, they go around and collect all the shiny rocks and it was his line, and make a garden in front of it." And, wow, that is great. And I'd like to be under the sea in an octopus's garden in the shade. He'd let us in. And that's how it started. So, you know, it comes from anywhere. It's not always like a job, oh, I've got to write this. Sometimes it just arrives. And because of the lunch, I wrote that song.
Amazing.
Yeah, you know. And Paul wrote Yellow Submarine. So what was he thinking?
Well, I mean, you have these songs now that you are expected to play every time you do one of your AllStar shows. How do you keep that interesting for yourself when you have to do these songs over
Keep
and
it
over?
interesting for myself because I know that 90% of the audience want to hear those songs. And the band I put together, they have to have hits. Colin A, Men at Work has hits. Toto, Steve Lukather, all the bands had to have hits. And some of them lasted a while, but now they're lasting even longer. We are a band now. This band, we feel like a band. And, you know, we've played for years now. I think Luke's been with me 10 years, and, you know, Greg Bissonnet, the other drummer, because I get out and present myself, hey, peace and love. And we have one part of the show, I don't know if you've ever seen the show with Luke.
Have.
He says, well, you know, I know you know all of those songs, but I've been working on this one song. It's a little different. I've been working on it for 4 years, and I thought, we're jazzing. And he's going, yeah, and you can see the audience like, what? And then we break out laughing, and so do they, because we're only messing with them. It's part of our show now. But yeah, no, I have no problem doing help for my friends over and over again. It's why they're here, you know, and it's why I'm there. They're not here to, you know, abstract songs from 40 years.
It's actually a really interesting thing because you really kind of have to put your egos aside to do each other's songs. You know, there's no one person in the show that's like always the focus.
Yeah.
It's kind of unusual in this business that's kind of ego-driven to be able to do that. So what is it about you and your bandmates in the AllStar band that are able to do that?
Well, you know, what you're saying, I've had a couple of AllStar bands and people like that were in it. They want, you know, they thought it was their band, their show, and I said yes. And which band were you in? And but I have had some trouble with musicians who can't do that, can't do it, you know, because I have to speak every time I have a speech. Look, I will do my best for you, and I want you to do your best for me, and your best for him, and your best for him. And we do the best we can every night, you know. And some nights are just magical. It's just the audience. I love the audience. And, you know, I know they love me. It's a peace of love show. Whatever is going on, that's what we're promoting, and good music. And, you know, I do tell them now every night, I say, and I promise you this, all of you will know at least one song out of all of that, which they do, you know, so I get to play though with really cool players, you know, and because we're a band, we can rock it up a bit occasionally, you know. I don't do it the same any 2 nights on the run, you know. I just like put something somewhere.
Well, it's actually a really interesting thing that you have been a really good collaborator throughout your career. I mean, in a way that is kind of unusual. I mean, after the Beatles, you were able to do things with all 3 of the other members and get along. I mean, that's really unusual. I mean, usually when bands kind of break up, people don't work together anymore. What is it about you that makes you work so well with others like that?
I'm lovable. Well, we're playing. I love to play, and especially those other 3 guys, they love to play, and, you know, we'd known each other, and a lot of it was accidental that I was making a record in LA here, and with Richard Perry and a lot of American guys, and And John just came to LA to do something, didn't come for me. And we went out, and I said, well, have you got anything? And he said, well, I've got this song. I said, okay, and it was, I'm the Greatest. And now I share that, he wrote I'm the Greatest for himself, but he said to me, I can't handle this, you do it. Because I don't know what he felt, he'd probably feel, I can get away with saying I'm the greatest, and when I meet people they say you're the best, I say no, I'm the greatest, you're the best. I like to have joy in my life, I mean, a lot of it is joy, and playing is a joy.
It does kind of bring up the question, when you've been given songs like that, or with a little help from my friends, or when George Harrison gave you It Don't Come Easy, all these songs that people give you, then how do you take them and make them your own and put your own stamp on it?
Well, actually, the one you mentioned with George, I wrote most of it, and then he was great at finishing. I could never finish songs. I had one with 47 verses.
47?
Yeah, and I gave it to Harry Nilsson, who got it down to 11, and it's never come out. But I like to hang out with musicians and writers, and it's, even in the Rory days, I mean, we were a band, and Rory we were all in the same suits then, you know what I mean? We were like dressed like a band because we got that from America, that's how they would dress. And Rory, was the attraction in the middle of all that. And at the end of the show, in one of the venues, we played these holiday camps for months. There was an upright piano behind the drums, and he'd climb up that and then jump over my head and the drums to the floor, But he was like that personality.
But that time you're talking about, that was when you were really kind of given a spotlight, I think maybe for the first time, where you were, like, they gave you your own segment of the show that was just yours, right?
Yeah, they had the Ringo Starr time.
So is that when you realized that you had kind of the frontman quality as well, not just, someone part of a band?
I may have the frontman quality, but I love the band, being the drummer in the band quality. I mean, if you have to pick a choice now, what is that? You'd always be playing, that's how it is. But no, I like to be out front too. I have a good time, and I involve the audience. We have a lot of fun. One time, and these people were a little late. I always do this. Hey, shall we start again? And but anyway, this guy came in with his shirt on. I'm saying, and I bet you think that looks good. And the audience was, oh. Okay, gone too far, peace and love.
Well, the Rory Storm was actually above the Beatles for quite a while in the Liverpool scene. They were actually lucky to get you away from that band. I
loved the front line. And we were in Germany together. They were in this little crazy club, and we were in another club that this guy Kaiser Keller ran the clubs in, way downtown Hamburg. And so we sort of got to know each other a little bit. And then I was as surprised as anyone. This was before they joined. Brian Epstein knocked on the door saying, Pete can't make it, would you come down and play? Okay. Let me get out of bed. And I was as surprised when the phone call happened. We were playing this holiday camp gig. We loved that, it's 3 months' work. Brian phoned me again. And it was funny because he said, would you join? I said, yeah, when? He says, tonight. I said, I can't join tonight. I'll come, this was Wednesday. I'll be there Saturday. Give Rory time to get another drummer, And what was your question?
Well, I was just wondering if there was any hesitation on your part to jump from one to the other at that point, because you were doing well with that band.
Yeah, we were doing well, and so many people in the cabin said, "You're leaving Rory?" I said, "Yeah, man, I just love that front line." I mean, I've said that for many years. That's why. It was great. And yeah, I think I made a right move.
Yeah, I'd say so.
You know, I think I looked up.
You know, I mean, 2025 is going to mark 55 years since you started your solo career.
Yeah.
And even when you've been in a successful band, there's no guarantee that you're going to do well as a solo artist. So when you made that jump, were you nervous or were you pretty confident?
I was terrified. It was one of those things I was asked in 1989. Somebody got to some guy in New York, and they got to my guy in LA about putting a band together. And yeah, sure. What have I said? I've never done this in my life. It just, okay. And we put it together. We had phone books in those days, so I'd call Joe Walsh. I'd say, hey, you know, they've offered us this tour. Do you want to be in the band? He said, sure. You know, Dr. John, do you want to, you know, I'm doing this. I just called people, and I had to stop looking at, because everyone was saying yes. You know, Levon and Rick were there, Nils Lofgren was there, Billy Preston was there. I just kept making these calls, and you know, it could have been a 40-piece orchestra, but that was how it started. And we opened in a field in Texas.
Where you wanted to move at one point, you're correct.
I did. I wanted to move because of a blues player called Lightning Hopkins. I don't know, he just got to my heart. I loved him. And as a teenager, I went down to the embassy and got the forms to come to Houston, Texas. And it was interesting now looking on it because they also gave you these forms to fill in and a whole page of jobs in factories, because I was in a factory, you know, to ask if they give you a job. But anyway, we filled in these forms and we took them back, and the guy said, okay, now do these as well. You know, we're teenagers. More forms, sod it. You know, so we didn't go.
Wow, how different your life would have been.
Well, yes, but we wouldn't have known that.
True.
Or if I'd have stayed with Rory, or if, you know, if you'd done this, that, or the other. You only know where you've gone and where you've been. You know, it's like, why did I say that? You know what I mean? It's like, well, you did, and this is the consequence. And the consequences are good.
I mean, really, it seemed like the odds were kind of stacked against you at the start, though. I mean, you weren't born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You were very sick as a child for a long time. I mean, do you ever look back on that and think that you're surprised that things have turned out the way that they did because you had kind of a rough start?
They turned out where they were, but what, you know, we're talking about those right turns. I was sitting in a bed in a hospital with 40 other kids who've got tuberculosis, TB. And to keep us busy, because in those days they wanted to keep everybody in bed, they thought that heals. They brought, one day this woman came in with maracas, triangles, tambourines, and a drum this size, about 5 of them. And she gave them just at will, you know, to each of us laying in bed. She had these, she pointed to the yellow, you hit the drum. She pointed to the red, you shook the thing. And I went, I want to be a drummer. It was like mad. I'm 13, maybe 14, going on 14. And it was like, with me from that moment, I wanted to be a drummer. That's what I wanted to be. And I'd go and look when I got out of hospital, go and look in Liverpool in the music stores and look at the drums, you know. Everyone else looking at guitars. I'm like, oh, look at those drums. And my stepdad's cousin died, and he went down to the funeral in London from Liverpool. And he didn't know, but the guy was a drummer, and there was a stack of drums in the corner. And he asked his wife, do you want to sell them? And he bought them for me. And these big old drums, you know, I wanted new and shiny. But anyway, that's how stupid you are when you're 17. And that that's really what started it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's those moves that, I was just there while the moves went on, coming through. And then I started with the guy next door, Eddie Miles, who called himself something else in the band. And Roy, my best friend, we were all in the same factory. Me and Eddie were engineers, and my friend Roy was a joiner. He worked in the wood part of the factory. And we put a trio together. First of all, we used to play for the men in the basement at lunchtime. We'd all have to bring you lunch. And they'd, "Get out of here, turn that shit off." They'd be shouting at us. But it was great to give you, you carried on.
It probably set you up really well for Hamburg later.
I don't think anyone has thought I'd say, "Oh, well, I this, and then I'll do that, and this will go there, and then I'll be there." You don't know, I just I said yes a couple of times, and it worked out well.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. It's truly an honor, and
Yeah,
I know we
thanks.
all appreciate it very much. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.